In 1762, a king ordered his own son, a crown prince, the heir to his throne, sealed inside a rice chest. He sat outside, he listened, and he waited for 8 days. The prince screamed, he begged, and the king, his father, did nothing. Here's the thing that makes this story truly insane. This wasn't some tyrant who hated his child from birth. Yeongjo loved this boy. This was the son he'd prayed for, the genius who knew 60 Chinese characters at age 2. So what went so catastrophically wrong that a loving father ended up murdering his own heir? That's what we're about to find out. Yeongjo's mother was a Musuri. That's basically the palace cleaning lady. The absolute bottom of the social ladder. She scrubbed floors, washed chambers, did whatever the higher-ranking women told her to do. And somehow, she caught the king's eye. Her son grew up as a prince, sure, but a prince that every noble in court looked at and thought, "Your mum was a servant." That stain never washed off. Now here's the thing, Yeongjo was never supposed to be king. He had an older half-brother, Yeongjo, already on the throne. Yeongjo was just there, a spare prince with a commoner mother. But then Yeongjo died, suddenly, suspiciously, and the circumstances? Oh, they were bad. Right before he died, Yeongjo ate crab and dried persimmon. In traditional Korean medicine, both are extremely cold foods. Eat them together and you're looking at severe, dangerous diarrhea. Think of it like someone with a known allergy mysteriously getting served the exact thing that could kill them. And to make it worse, Yeongjo himself had offered Yeongjo ginseng and aconite as medicine. Aconite, a substance so toxic it can stop your heart. The guy who served his brother suspicious remedies just happens to take the throne when that brother drops dead. The Whisper campaign wrote itself. He poisoned his own brother to steal the crown. That rumor followed Yeongjo for his entire 52-year reign. It wasn't just gossip. In 1782, a full-blown armed rebellion erupted under Injo, literally trying to overthrow him. A poisoner king, they called him, a fraud. So Yeongjo spent his reign trying to outwork the rumors. He abolished torture methods used for centuries: knee-crushing, leg-twisting, branding with hot iron. He launched the Tangpyeong policy, hiring officials from every political faction so no one could call him partisan. He cut military taxes in half for ordinary people. Every single reform was Yeongjo screaming into the void. "I am a legitimate king. I earned this." But no amount of policy could silence the whispers. The one thing that could truly cement his legacy was an heir. A perfect heir. So Yeongjo had to prove himself. As a king. And as a father. So here's the thing about Yeongjo. He actually had a son before Sado. Crown Prince Hyojang. Born in 1719, died in 1728. He was 9 years old. 9. And just like that, Yeongjo had no heir. For 14 years, this man sat on a throne that half the country thought he stole, with no son to carry his name forward. 14 years of whispers. 14 years of the king killer has no heir. You can imagine what that does to a person. Then, in 1735, a miracle. Yeongjo is 40 years old. That's ancient by Joseon standards, where kings averaged about 47 for their entire lifespan. And his concubine gives him a son, a boy, a future. And this kid? This kid was something else. By age 2, he'd memorized 60 Chinese characters. By 3, he was composing poetry. We're talking about a toddler who could barely hold a brush writing actual verses. Yeongjo must have thought the heavens finally answered him. But here's what Yeongjo saw when he looked at that baby. He didn't just see a son, he saw proof. Proof that he deserved the throne. Proof that his bloodline wasn't cursed. This child was going to be the perfect king that Yeongjo could never fully be. No questions about his mother, no murder rumors, a clean slate. So what did Yeongjo do? He named the boy Crown Prince at age 2, started formal Confucian education at 3. Think about that, age 3. Today that's preschool, finger painting and nap time. But this kid was sitting in a lecture hall, memorizing Confucian classics, surrounded by old scholars bowing to him. Before he could even walk properly, the entire weight of a dynasty was already on his shoulders. But here's where it starts to go wrong. So Yeongjo had this building in the palace called Joseon. You know who used to live there? Yeongjo, the half-brother. The one Yeongjo was accused of poisoning. And Yeongjo took his own son and told him to live there. Imagine your father saying, "Go sleep in the room of the man everyone thinks I murdered." That wasn't an accident. That was a message. Yeongjo was using his child as political theatre, proving to the court he had nothing to hide about his brother's death. The prince was a prop, but the real damage happened in public. Yeongjo would summon Sado to court meetings and tear into him in front of every minister in the room. Not behind closed doors, in front of the people Sado was supposed to rule someday. Picture your boss, who's also your dad, destroying you in front of the entire company, every single time. And then the favoritism. Yeongjo adored Princess Hwapyeong, Sado's older sister. Didn't even try to hide it. He performed an ear-washing ritual, a ceremonial purification, right in front of Sado, basically saying, "I need to cleanse myself after listening to you. Your sister? She's the one I'm proud of." Now here's the thing. Hwapyeong wasn't just the favorite. She was the buffer. When things got ugly between father and son, she stepped in. She smoothed it over. And then she died. And that last thin thread holding Yeongjo and Sado together just dissolved. After that, Sado said something that tells you everything. "I became sick because my father does not love me, and I am afraid of him." That's not a political statement. That's a grown man who's still just a child in front of his father, telling you the exact moment his mind started to break. And while the prince was slowly falling apart, the Norrön ministers were busy with plans of their own. But we'll get to that. And then something snapped. So what does a broken prince look like? Like this. Sado couldn't get dressed anymore, literally could not put on clothes. His servants had to prepare 10, 20, sometimes 30 outfits just for him to try. He'd burn some of them, and during these dressing episodes, people got hurt. People died. His own wife, Lady Hae-gyong, wrote it all down. The screaming, the fires, the bodies. This wasn't a spoiled prince throwing tantrums. This was a man whose mind had shattered. And then the killing started. Palace maids, eunuchs. Sado murdered them inside the palace walls. His own words, "I only feel better when I kill, whether it's a person or a chicken." Let that sentence sit for a moment. A crown prince of Joseon said that out loud. In 1762, a low-ranking officer named Na Gyeongyeon submitted a petition listing more than 10 of Sado's crimes. Yeongjo read it, and then he burned it. No investigation, no trial. He just set it on fire and pretended it didn't exist. But then came the one voice he couldn't ignore. Sado's own mother, royal noble consort Yeong, went to Yeongjo and asked him to deal with her son. His own mother asked for his punishment, and Yeongjo made his decision. Changgyeonggung Palace, the courtyard of Munjeongjeon Hall. Yeongjo ordered a wooden rice chest brought out, and he told his son to get inside. Sado dropped to his knees. "Please, father, I'll do better. Please." Yeongjo turned his back. The lid closed. 8 days, the middle of July. No water, no food, just heat and wood and silence. Sado died of dehydration and starvation inside that box. And while the crown prince was dying, slowly, over 8 days, the Norrön ministers threw a party on the Han River. A literal boat party. The men who had spent years undermining the prince were out celebrating on the water while he suffocated in a chest. But here's the thing that haunts me most. Yeongjo lived to 83, the longest living king in all of Joseon history. He received over 7,000 medical checkups in his lifetime. He ate small meals. He kept a strict schedule. This man was obsessed with staying alive. The king who let his own son die of thirst spent the next 14 years making sure he personally never missed a single health exam. Think about that. After the chest was opened and the body was carried away, Yeongjo did something no one expected. He gave his dead son a posthumous name, Sado. In Korean, those characters are read as Sa and Do, mourning with longing. The man who ordered the chest sealed is now the man naming the grief. He killed his son, then wrote the eulogy. Yeongjo wasn't a monster. He was a father who wanted so desperately for his son to be perfect that he crushed him instead. He loved the boy. He just never learned how to show it without breaking him. Sado's son, Yi-san, grew up in the shadow of that rice chest. When he took the throne as King Yeongjo, one of the first things he did was restore his father's honor. The grief passed down like a crown. And somewhere in that name, Sado, mourning with longing, a father finally admitted what he'd done. Too late. Far too late.